Welcome to the Global Peace Film Festival Lives Online Conversation 2022 Festival Edition. Please join me, Kelly Devine, the Artistic Director, and Nina Strike, the Executive Director, in conversation with Ray Sharp regarding his film, One. Please join us with our in-person programming, which begins September 19th and runs through September 25th, followed immediately by our virtual online programming, where you can find the short One as part of our Free for All Shorts program. That programming begins September 26th and runs through October the 2nd. All the information about all of our festival events can be found at our website, peacefilmfest.org. And now please join me in welcoming Ray Sharp, and we get to talk about your wonderful film, One.
Yay, thanks for having me. This is a pleasure.
Great to have you with us. So Ray, start out by telling us about the film.
Yeah, absolutely. I had this story, and I'm not really a filmmaker per se. I guess I am now that I've completed a film. But I wasn't a filmmaker before, but I had this story, and I had just had to tell it. So my wife and I actually came up with the initial idea, and I kind of ran with it. I don't know if you've seen the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. There's a moment in that film that has kind of inspired me. I don't know if you know the characters. Cameron, Ferris's best friend, and they're walking through a museum with those little kids, and Cameron stops and focuses on that piece of art, and then our camera zooms in and zooms in and zooms in, and of this little girl in that painting. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting idea to film somebody taking in a piece of art. So I've always had this idea for this piece of art, and I've never made it. So my wife's idea was, let's film somebody taking in your piece of art that you've created. So I had to, part of my piece of art was a pond with a beautiful water fountain in the middle coming up. And so I had to ask permission for the city of Hearst. It's a little town here in Texas. I had to ask permission to build my piece of art out there. And then I was going to film somebody taking in this piece of art. So that's kind of where the idea came from. And there was a lot of steps to make all this happen. But that was sort of the impetus for this whole crazy story.
Well, you did a beautiful job for it being your first film. I want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I called in a lot of favors, people who have made films before. I'm actually a film composer, so I'm a part of making films, but I've never gotten behind the camera, and directed and wrote the film. So this was an interesting experience for me to be in a different chair, wear a different hat. So I did call in a bunch of favors, my filmmaker friends. So that's why it does look the way it does. Cliff Richard, who did the filming, and he had a buddy of his that brought a drone that was flying over the pond. Yeah, really neat. So I called in some favors. I'm a part of a theater company here in Dallas Fort Worth. It's called 4-Day Weekend. If you're ever in town, come see our show. So I got one of our newest actors, Colton Winburn. He's a comedic actor, and he'd never done anything serious, but he has such an interesting look to him, and he's very inquisitive and curious. And I thought he would fit this role perfect. In fact, I wasn't going to do the film unless he agreed to do it. Once he agreed to do it, then I was like, okay, we've got a story.
Well, the wonderful thing about the film, many of the people who are watching this have likely not yet seen the film, and I would really recommend that they do check it out.
Yes, please do.
Is that you don't have any dialogue. And so his face is really
tells the whole story. Yes. So I had to do a lot of research. Yeah, the piece of art that came from my mother. When I was about 15 or 16, she took me every Sunday. She would take me to experience one of the world religions. So on Sunday we went to see a Jewish temple. On the next weekend we saw, or the next Friday we went to a mosque. We went to a Buddhist garden that we have here in Texas. It's this beautiful meditation garden area, which is beautiful, and I still live by it. And then, of course, we went to a Christian church, and then there's many more other religions in the world because we're Christian, my family is, but she wanted to expose me to all the world religions. And so that really had an impression on me when I was 15 or 16 years old. So I thought it'd be neat to figure out what were the similarities between the world religions. And I came across the Golden Rule. And so all of them have a different version of it. It's a little bit different. So I did some research, and that's what I put on those plaques that are around the water fountain. But they're all pointing towards, the water fountain, which kind of represents the God figure. And so they're all pointing towards, and I hope that comes across with the symbols and where they're placed around the pond. I hope that all comes across in the film. I think it does.
Yeah, very much, very much. The centering it around that fountain does make it feel as though it's the spring of life. And
absolutely.
the different interpretations of that. And I don't want to spoil the film for people who haven't seen it, because
Yeah,
there is
sure.
there is a lovely way that it all culminates. But it's I could tell your musical background, because the music was very lovely and well integrated, and that's usually the hardest thing for first-time filmmakers.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've done a lot of short films and TV work, and I perform with the theater company. I'm the music director, so I get a lot of stage time on the weekends. So I'm actually sitting in my music studio right now.
Oh, very good, very good. And what was it, as we've been talking about, that this was your first time actually deciding to make a film, to be the person directing it, as opposed to maybe working on the music.
Mhm.
What surprised you about the process? What did you learn about the process?
Oh, how difficult it is to handle actors, because to try to get him to do what I really thought in my head, that was hard. Having to come up with the words to this is how you're discovering this, and now your pace quickens, and all those crazy things. And then I didn't know about all the color correction that Cliff had to do. That's kind of editing stuff. So a lot of the magic that happened in the film, I credit to Cliff, who shot it, and he edited it all together for me. And he did all the Foley. I don't know if you know what the Foley is, the sound effects and everything. There's a moment where the goose flaps his wings, and he added the sound effect in post. But what other things surprised me? Yeah, just having to get everything organized. My wife helped me with that. Having to pay the extras and stuff, and all the forms you have to fill out and all that stuff. Yeah, I had to learn all about that kind of stuff. Scheduling, it was a nightmare to get everybody who was involved to be the same day and the same morning. And I remember I was the first one there, and I had placed the plaques out, and I was sitting there by myself, and it's like, if certain people don't show up, it was a nervous wreck. But it all came. I asked too many extras to come and to play parts just in case, because some people were late and didn't show up. So yeah, I had to learn how to organize quite a bit.
Yes, I've often heard it likened, being a director to being a field marshal. That you're
Hmm.
trying to.
Yeah, and everyone was turning to me for all the answers, and yeah, I had someone who her name is Farrah White, and I've composed the music for several of her films, and she was there to kind of help me a little bit. She was kind of my co-pilot that day.
Oh, very good, very good.
Yeah.
And well, I suppose, although things did come together, but if it hadn't, you would have had a lovely art installation of all the signs.
Yeah, I've been thinking about asking the city of Hearst if they would make it permanent, because I had to take it all down. But yeah, they were making really nice stone ones. It was interesting because on that day of filming, people were walking around the pond, and they were coming across them. That was almost my favorite part of the morning. Was just seeing these strangers read these things, and then they would walk to the next one and then the next one, and they were like, oh, they were starting to figure it out, and they were coming over like, what are you guys doing? So it was fun to talk to those just random people who are at this park. I guess those it was working. It was making them think about our similarities rather than our differences.
Well, and that brings me to, why I was so attracted to this film, as part of our festival and our mission, which
Yeah.
is definitely about, trying to inspire people to take something that they've seen that we've brought to them and bring it into their own personal lives, back into their communities, hopefully to make it a little more peaceful, a little more just world. And, I realize this is um, not every film will have an organized call to action or impact campaign. But what's been your
Hmm.
experience getting this film out and the impact that you think that you've seen?
It's been pretty positive. I have a bigger idea of what I wanted the film, a bigger idea, but I've only had a few people who have come to these conclusions that I initially set out, and I didn't know if it was because I, being my first time making a film, that I didn't shoot it correctly, or it's just too broad of of an idea. Um, but what was your initial question? I got off.
Well, no. I think that please tell me about what that bigger idea was.
Oh, well, it was a sort of a therefore. It's kind of if all these religions had come to this conclusion separately, then what does that therefore mean? I don't want to say it, but I want people to think about what this actually means. Yes, this is true, but therefore, what is the bigger meaning behind it? Because it is true that these different world religions have come up with the golden rule. So what does that mean about the human existence and our deep down inside what we really think and what we've come up with? I don't want to. I hate to like say. I want people to come up with it on their own. But
Well,
I hope that people dig a little deeper than just, oh, it's nice that the world religions all have discovered the golden rule.
have you tried to establish a dialogue with people who have seen your film, maybe to ask them that question, or through social
Yeah,
media channels?
a little bit. I had a premiere, and we had a Q&A afterwards, and we talked about it a little bit. A good friend of mine who works at the theater, he got it. He's pretty much the only one. But yeah, I would hope that people, when they watch it or dig a little deeper, they're like, what is this?
Well, I
What
like
is
that
this?
because
Therefore, what does
that
this
is
mean?
definitely something that we try to do, is to get people. Uh, our slogan actually is "It starts here," because most film festivals that are about celebrating the craft of filmmaking,
Hmm.
everything ends when the film is over and the lights come up. But for us, that's when things start, because that's
Yeah.
when we hope the conversation will start and when people will really start examining things in a positive and inspirational way.
I did make a choice during the credits. The music that plays is very minimalistic, and I was hoping that during those moments or when people were going to reflect on what what did I just see and what does that mean? Yeah, I really wanted a lot longer. I can play some more music, but let's draw these credits way out so I can have people sit there and think about what this means. But I think it all pans out pretty good timing wise. I think it's only about 6 minutes. The whole thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But I
that,
think it tells the whole story.
well, that can be your next film to tell to bring the rest of the story. So
I've actually thought about. I've pitched an idea to an animator. My next film. It's about erasing social norms, which is interesting. So,
wow. Well,
so someday.
that was going to be my next question, is what's next for
Oh,
you? So what before you get to that film, what is going to be next for you, and how can people support your work?
well, I'm in a master's program right now that's kind of taking all my time for film scoring. It's through it's called Momentum. I'll give them a shout out. So I'm going out to California in January to conduct a symphony of a piece I wrote, and which is pretty exciting. Through the program, all of us get about 10 minutes with this orchestra to play our music, which is it's going to be a thrill for me. But focusing on film scoring is what I'm doing right now. But if you're a director out there and want to hire me, raysharp.com.
Very good, very good. Well, Ray, thank you so much for sharing your really inspirational work. I think that people, when they watch it, they are going to be thinking quite a lot about what it all means afterwards. So hopefully we can start that. We can kickstart that dialogue with you. And thank you to everyone who has watched today's Glow. We've been talking with Ray Sharp, the filmmaker behind One. If you want to find out more about his work, support him, especially if you are a director who needs a composer, please do check out raysharp.com. And again, you can see One as a part of the Global Peace Film Festival's 20th anniversary event. Our in-person screenings begin September 19th, running through September 25th, and our virtual online programming begins September 26th through October 2nd. One is a part of our Free for All Shorts program that starts September 26th. All of the information can be found at peacefilmfest.org. Thank you again, and we'll see you at the next Glow.